standing on the press conference is about to start?
All the press.
Yes. Run me at 14. Okay. Do you want me to check or do you want me to? Run me at 14. Y'all need to see it. Microphones.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sergeant Keith Whiteside with the Fayette County Sheriff's Department. We're gathered here. We got a press release, give you a little information on the incident that took place here. I'd like to introduce Lieutenant Tommy Pope, lead investigator for the Fayette County Sheriff's Department, along with the District Attorney Scott Ballard. At this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Pope. He can give you a little information, if you will. Allow them to get through with what they have to say, and then we'll take some questions afterwards.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you know, yesterday afternoon, approximately around 2:30, the Sheriff's Department received a call for a welfare check here at the Benoit residence. That call came from Mr. Benoit's employers. Apparently, he had missed some engagements earlier this weekend out of state. They became concerned for his health and well-being. The deputies arrived on scene. Once searching the house, they were able to locate 3 bodies inside of the home here. Those bodies were Mr. Benoit himself, his wife Nancy, and their son Daniel. All 3 subjects were deceased. From an investigation that has taken place since that time yesterday afternoon and continued at the crime lab earlier today, where autopsies were performed on all 3 subjects, we are now looking at this case and ruling it as a double homicide suicide. Evidence in the home leads us to believe that Mr. Benoit had sometime, possibly Friday, had murdered his wife by asphyxiation. Sometime shortly after that, on into early part of the weekend, the same for his son Daniel. And then maybe later on Saturday evening, sometime early Sunday, had committed suicide by hanging himself in the basement area. That is how we are ruling this case this time. We are still waiting further results from the crime lab, which will include toxicology reports. That can take up to several weeks to get all of that information back. But right now the doctors from the crime labs have given us those rulings, and that's where we are right now at this time. No, ma'am. There was no type of suicide note or anything within the house that we had located.
Was he strangled, or was the son? We heard she was strangled. The son was smothered. Is that true?
Asphyxiation by death on both the son and the wife.
But was the son smothered like with a pillow or something like that? Or?
I'm just going to, at this time, I'm going to leave it as asphyxiation for him.
Was the son in his bed?
He was located in the bedroom. Yes, ma'am.
Was he in bed?
Yes, sir.
Was he in his own bedroom?
Yes, ma'am. His bedroom.
Had Ron ever been arrested before? Here in Fayette County?
Yes, sir.
What were the circumstances?
One charge I know of, I believe, was DUI, but that was by another jurisdiction here within the county, so I can't answer to the specific charge.
At any point was there any domestic violence with his wife?
To my current knowledge, here at this residence, not that I have knowledge of at this time.
Do you know of him ever filing for a divorce?
From Nancy, no, sir. I don't know of that, no, sir. That information has not been given to me at this time.
Did you find any illegal substances, any steroids, any drugs that are of concern, anything, any illegal substance?
There were a lot of prescription medication that he had received from doctors with what we believe to be at this time legal prescriptions.
What type of prescriptions?
That I'll have to get a full list and maybe be able to disclose later. Right now, I'm not going to be able to give you that full list of
Were
that.
some of them anabolic steroids?
Yes, sir, they were.
Is there any indication of a motive?
We're not going to go into that at this time.
Are these results based on what the autopsy showed? Is that what you're saying?
Based on what the autopsy showed and the evidence that we recovered in the house, yes, sir.
Sir, there was some mention of text messages and possible phone messages left prior to his death. Can you elaborate a little bit on the text messages and the phone messages?
Only that he had text messaged a co-worker, and that co-worker received that message several hours after he originally texted. I will not go into the contents of that.
You mentioned the anabolic steroids, and you did say they were legal. There was a prescription for them, right?
Yes, sir.
Any information that might have played a role in what happened, his use of those medications?
Not necessarily directly related to the cause of death. The cause of death was asphyxiation on all three.
Yeah, I mean, if they're contributed to his state of mind, is what I'm asking.
I'm not able to answer what his state of mind was at that time, no, sir.
How long after killing his son did he commit suicide? How much time elapsed?
According to the doctor at this time, several hours, no more than a day.
When will the toxicology reports be released to indicate what drugs were in?
As I stated earlier, ma'am, that could take a week to several weeks for us to get them back. It just depends on the crime lab, the speed that they're able to process those for us.
Where was his wife's body found?
She was inside the house in an office area.
So was a full day between the fact that he killed his wife and then his son? A full day elapsed?
Close to a day, yes, ma'am.
Is there any evidence that she resisted or fought him?
No, ma'am.
What time of night did he kill her?
I don't know the exact. Right now the doctor from the crime lab is stating that her death occurred sometime Friday, and his sometime Saturday.
While you can't say what was in the text message, can you characterize it? Was it sort of a cry for help, or was it somewhat disturbing to the person?
I'm not going to elaborate on it at the time. I would like to turn it over to our district attorney, Scott Ballard, if you have any questions or comments for him.
There's really not a prepared statement that I need to give. Lieutenant Pope pretty much said it all. I will take whatever questions I feel comfortable answering.
You alluded to some bizarre circumstances. Could you go into that?
Sure. In a community like this, it's bizarre just to have a murder-suicide. It's certainly involving the death of a 7-year-old child. I think that's what I'm struck by most through all of this, is that there's a 7-year-old little boy who's dead. And I don't think we'll ever be able to wrap our minds around that completely. I had mentioned that some of the circumstances with regard to the death I thought were bizarre. By that, what I meant was the timing primarily, and while we don't have that nailed down completely, it would appear that some period of time elapsed between the death of the two victims and the suicide, and it struck me as somewhat bizarre that perhaps he would even be in the home with their deceased bodies for some length of time. Now, we don't know that. We haven't verified that. I will say this additional information. There was a Bible placed beside the body of each of the victims, and I thought that was somewhat bizarre.
Were there any signs of a struggle from the son or the wife?
No, I will tell you that the wife was bound on her feet, and I think also on her wrists. There was some blood under her head. As far as I know, those were the only signs of a struggle.
What about his son?
The son, I don't think there's any sign of struggle.
Was he sleeping when his father smothered him?
I don't know.
Scott, was she clothed with boy clothes?
They were both clothed. She was wrapped in a towel, I think, but wearing clothes underneath, yes.
Is there any evidence that he left the residence at all during the weekend?
I don't know.
Do you know if his wife ever sought protection from him anyway, fearing domestic abuse?
I have not seen the documents. I'm told that perhaps in 2003 a temporary protective order was sought I believe in the Fayette Superior Court, and later dismissed.
What's a TPO typically sought for?
I don't know. Typically they're sought for some form of domestic violence, but not always. Not always.
Mr. Allen, are you able to reveal anything to us that might shed some sort of motive on what happened, what led up to this?
No, I'm baffled about why anybody would kill a 7-year-old baby. But no, I don't have any idea at all about a motive.
Was the Bible misplaced there? The hands, the feet, the head, put on them in any way? How was the Bible positioned with the bodies?
I don't know exactly. My understanding is that it was beside the bodies.
Just the two bodies, or was it one?
just the two bodies.
So, Scott, there was no evidence that he was attempting to hide these bodies. He left them out, or he...
That's correct.
Do they have family in this area? If so, have you been able to talk to them, and what have they told you?
I know they have family elsewhere. As far as in this area, I don't know. And I know that the Sheriff's Office has been quite diligent about talking with them, and I think quite appropriate in the way they've done that.
Were there any 911 calls that came from the house anytime over the weekend?
I'm not aware of any.
Have you heard from the Wrestling Federation?
Not me personally, no.
Is anybody else?
I don't know.
So the bodies were found in 3 different rooms?
That's correct.
Would you describe again for us the situation or the scene where each of the bodies was and what condition?
Okay. Bear in mind that I'm going by what I've been told, because by the time I arrived last night, the bodies had already been moved. There was one, the boy's body was in his bed, which is in an upstairs bedroom.
Did you look toward?
Oh, yes. The female's body was found in what looked to me to be a family room that was also upstairs. Chris's body was in the basement in a weight room.
How much time elapsed between the murder of the wife and son, approximately, do you know?
From what we're gathering from the autopsy, it's my understanding that the wife died sometime on Friday, that the son died probably Saturday morning, and that Chris Benoit died later on Saturday.
What did he hang himself?
You're familiar with weights that are attached to a pulley? It was the cord on the weights.
When you found the prescription drugs and steroids, were they near his body? Where did you find them in the house?
I don't know. I don't know that.
Is this the first time you've been to this house today?
I was here last night.
You said he had an emergency, he had to come back. Did we ever figure out what the emergency was?
I'm sorry, what was your
He
question?
told the wrestling people he had an emergency, a family emergency.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
What's next, like in this investigation? What do you do next?
Well, the toxicology reports will be of interest to us, and of course we'll, although at this point I think we're all pretty confident it was a murder-suicide, we'll be alert to any evidence to the contrary. But for the most part, I think we need to get the toxicology reports back and take a fresh look and re-examine and see whether our conclusions today continue to be our conclusions.
And you said 2 weeks for that?
Oh, it'd probably be longer than that.
So right now we can't say for sure he was on steroids. We know steroids were found.
That's correct. That's correct.
Is your work here at the house done?
I don't know how much longer the Sheriff's Office will continue to work out at the house.
There's no evidence that anyone else came into or left the house.
That's my
Are
understanding.
there any firearms in the house?
I don't know.
Do you know?
One Bible found.
Beside each of the victims.
Each of the victims.
Each of the 2 victims, not by him.
No Bible.
Could you give us your name and spell it?
Okay, I'm Scott Ballard, SCOTTBALLARD. I'm the district attorney for the Griffin Judicial Circuit that includes Fayette County.
Were the Bibles identical, or?
That I don't know.
Were they open?
That I don't know either.
Is there any indication that the son may have reached out or called out for help?
We can all speculate, but I don't know.
There were no phone calls or notes left or anything in his bedroom?
To my knowledge, no. Y'all, I think that's probably it. Thank you so much for your patience.
Guys, as y'all all know, this is still early in the investigation. We have still a lot of work to do in the house. We're going to return back to the house. Y'all are welcome to stay here. I know it's hot. If anything comes up that we feel is important, we'll come out and
Say what
brief
about the
you.
Bibles? You just found the Bible next to each body?
Yes, there's a Bible by each body. Right now, that'd be the end of the questions, okay? Thank you.